I've secretly paid my ex's rent for 3 years after I ruined his life in a car crash. He thinks a charity saved him. Now, I'm laid off, the money is gone, and his fake miracle is about to end. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Because today's story isn't about a hero. It's about how far someone will go to buy their own peace of mind and the ugly reality of what happens when the money finally runs out. The screen on my phone is cracked in the top left corner. I'm sitting in the driver's seat of my car in a grocery store parking lot, just staring at the banking app. The screen is too bright. It hurts my eyes, but I can't look away from the numbers. Available balance, $2,412.50. His rent is $1,200 a month. I do the math again. I've done it 20 times in the last hour. I have exactly 2 months of his rent left. After that, my savings are at zero. My checking is at zero. I don't have a credit card with any room left on it. I put the phone face down on the passenger seat. The leather on my steering wheel is peeling, and the rough edges dig into my palms. My mouth is completely dry. I swallow, and it feels like sandpaper in my throat. My stomach cramps up, hard like I'm going to throw up, but I haven't eaten anything since a piece of toast yesterday morning. I just sit there and breathe in the smell of the old floor mats and the stale air of a car that's been baking in the sun. There is no way out of this. If I don't send the money by May, the shell company I set up defaults. The landlord hands him a 3-day notice to pay or quit. He loses the apartment. He loses the studio space where he paints. He loses the fake stability I bought for him. I lean my head back against the headrest. The fabric is scratchy. I don't cry. I'm too tired to cry. I just sit in the silence and realize that the lie I've been living for 3 years is about to crash into a brick wall. 5 years ago, people think car accidents happen with a lot of screaming and dramatic swerving. Mine didn't. It was 2:15 in the morning. We were driving back from a weekend trip. I was behind the wheel. Liam was asleep in the passenger seat with his jacket pulled up over his chin. The heater was on too high, blowing dry, hot air right into my face. My eyes felt heavy. I remember blinking, and the blinks just started taking longer to open. I was so tired my arms felt numb. I didn't fall asleep for minutes. It was maybe 2 seconds, a micro-sleep. I drifted out of the lane. The sound woke me up first, that loud, aggressive vibration of the tires hitting the rumble strip on the shoulder. It vibrated up through the floorboards. I panicked. I jerked the steering wheel hard to the left to get back on the road. The car overcorrected. The tires squealed, a high, ugly sound. We spun. I slammed my foot on the brake, but it didn't do anything. We hit the concrete median at 60 miles an hour. The impact punched the air out of my lungs. The airbags deployed with a loud pop, and the car filled with a smell like burnt hair and sulfur. My ears were ringing so loud I couldn't hear the engine hissing. I looked over. Liam was conscious, but he was making a low, wet sound in the back of his throat. He couldn't move his legs. The dashboard was crushed inward, pinning his knees. There was no movie music, just the ticking of the cooling engine and the sound of my own ragged breathing. The waiting room at the hospital had fluorescent lights that buzzed, a low, constant hum that gave me a headache. I sat in a hard plastic chair for 9 hours. The seat was sticky. I stared at a vending machine across the hall. When the doctor finally came out, he didn't give a long speech. He looked at a clipboard. He said the vertebrae in Liam's lower back were fractured. He said there would be months of rehab, chronic pain management, and that his athletic scholarship for the fall was completely off the table. He said it in a flat, tired voice. They let me into his room the next day. It smelled like bleach and institutional mashed potatoes. Liam was in a rigid neck brace. He looked pale, and his lips were chapped. I stood at the end of his bed. I gripped the plastic footboard so hard my knuckles turned white. I couldn't look him in the eye. I looked at his IV line instead. Liam, I started, my voice cracked. I didn't. I was so tired, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. He didn't yell at me. He didn't tell me he hated me. He just looked at me. His eyes were completely hollow. There was nothing in them. No anger, no sadness, just a blank, tired stare. Just, he whispered, he had to stop and swallow. Just don't, please, not right now. He turned his head to stare at the blank wall. I walked out of the room. I walked out of the hospital. I drove back to our shared apartment. I didn't pack nicely. I grabbed black garbage bags from under the sink and just shoved my clothes into them. The sound of the plastic bags wrinkling echoed in the quiet room. I ripped packing tape off the roll with my teeth. I broke my lease. I changed my phone number 2 days later. I moved 3 states away to stay with a cousin. I didn't leave a note. I couldn't face the reflection of what I'd done every time I looked at him, so I just disappeared. I ran away. 2 years went by. I got a corporate job in a new city. I wore nice clothes, drank overpriced coffee, and pretended the past didn't happen. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed against the fake wood of my office desk. It was a text from Sarah, a mutual friend I hadn't spoken to since I packed my bags and ran. "Hey, heard you're doing well. Did you hear about Liam?" My stomach dropped. The air in the office suddenly felt too hot. I typed back, my thumbs slipping on the glass screen. "No, what's going on?" 3 gray dots appeared. They stayed there for what felt like 10 minutes. Then her reply came through. "He's getting evicted next week. His family is completely tapped out. The chronic pain from his back got so bad he couldn't keep his warehouse job. The depression it's bad. He's in a really dark place." I put the phone down. I stared at the blinking cursor on my computer monitor. My mouth tasted like copper. I felt that same hollow look he gave me in the hospital pressing down on my chest. I had to fix this. But I knew Liam. If I called him, if I tried to wire him money out of guilt, he would reject it. He would rather sleep in his car than take a single dollar from the person who put him in a wheelchair for 6 months. I needed a way to pay his rent without him ever knowing it was me. I had $40,000 sitting in a savings account. It was an inheritance from my grandmother. I was supposed to use it for a down payment on a house. Instead, I used it to build a lie. I didn't do it myself. I searched online for a local legal service in Liam's city. I found a guy named Greg. His office had cheap carpet and smelled like old coffee. Over a phone call, I paid him an $800 retainer to set up a shell LLC. We named it the Oakwood Resilience Initiative. It sounded official. It sounded like something a city government would fund. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, on a conference call with Greg, drafting an email to Liam's landlord. We didn't use emotional language. We used cold, boring corporate terms. Community grant. Indefinite housing subsidy. Selected candidate. I remember the sound of Greg typing over the phone. Click, click, click. "All right," Greg said, his voice flat. "Email sent, we wait." I spent the next 48 hours checking my phone every 5 minutes. My neck was stiff from tension. Finally, Greg called back. The landlord bought it. He just wanted the routing numbers for the direct deposit. I transferred the first 6 months of rent right then. Just like that, the transaction was done. I found out it worked on a Thursday night. I was sitting on my couch in the dark, eating a bowl of plain rice. The only light in the room was coming from my laptop screen. I searched Liam's name on Facebook. I did this almost every night. Usually, his profile was completely quiet, but that night, there was a new public post. It was a blurry picture of his apartment keys sitting on a cheap laminate kitchen counter. The caption was long. "I don't usually post personal stuff," he wrote, "but I thought I was going to be living in my car next week. Today, my landlord called. A local nonprofit stepped in. They covered my lease, completely. I don't even know how they found me or why they picked me, but I feel like I can finally breathe. I thought everyone forgot about me. The system actually cares." He called it a miracle. I read the word miracle over and over again until my eyes blurred. I set the laptop on the floor. I walked into my bedroom, lay down on top of the covers with my clothes still on, and closed my eyes. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't wake up sweating in the middle of the night. I slept for 9 straight hours. Not because I was a good person, because I had successfully bought my way out of feeling like a monster. $40,000 sounds like a lot of money until you are paying for 2 lives. The inheritance lasted exactly 2 years and 4 months. I tracked it on a basic Excel spreadsheet. Every month, I watched the number drop by $1,200. I didn't invest it. I didn't put it in a high-yield account. I just watched it disappear into the shell company's bank account, and from there, to Liam's landlord. When the inheritance account hit zero, the panic set in. My corporate job paid well, but after taxes, my own rent, car insurance, and groceries, I only had about $400 left over at the end of the month. I was short $800 every single month. I stopped going out. When my coworkers asked if I wanted to grab a drink on Fridays, I just said, I have errands to run. I started taking my lunch in my car so I wouldn't be Ted to buy a sandwich downstairs. Then I got a second job. I worked Monday through Friday at my office, and then on Saturday and Sunday, I stocked shelves at a local pharmacy. I wore a blue polo shirt that smelled like fabric softener and stale air. I stood on hard linoleum floors for 8 hours straight, lifting boxes of shampoo and toilet paper. My lower back ached constantly. I didn't have a single day off for 14 months. Eventually, prices for everything went up. Groceries got more expensive. My own rent increased. The second job wasn't enough anymore, so I picked up a third gig doing data entry online from 8:00 p.m. to midnight. My body started breaking down. I had a sharp pain in my back left molar that wouldn't go away. I knew it was a cavity, maybe a root canal. I didn't have the $900 to fix it, so I chewed my food on the right side of my mouth and took 4 ibuprofen every morning. The pills tasted chalky when I swallowed them with tap water. My work shoes, a pair of cheap black flats, wore out. The rubber on the bottom of the right heel completely rubbed away, exposing the plastic grid underneath. When it rained, water seeped right through to my heel. I couldn't spend $40 on new shoes. I took a roll of silver duct tape and put a strip on the inside of the shoe, right over the hole. By the end of the day, the adhesive would melt from my body heat and stick to my socks. My diet was bulk white rice, frozen peas, and cheap pasta. I lost 15 pounds. I looked tired. The bags under my eyes were dark purple. But every month, on the 28th, I logged into the bank portal and transferred $1,200 to Greg's shell company. The sheer, boring grind of it became my entire life. Wake up, work, eat rice. Work, sleep for 5 hours, repeat. The only thing that kept me going was the screen. At 1:00 a.m., after the data entry was done, I would lie in bed and look at Liam's social media. I was a ghost watching a life I was secretly funding. He looked healthier. The dark circles under his eyes were gone. And then he started posting photos of canvases. He was painting again. He hadn't painted since before the accident. He posted a picture standing next to a landscape painting. He was actually smiling. A real, genuine smile. His caption read, "Sometimes you think the world is against you, and then a program like the Oakwood Grant steps in." It didn't just give me a roof. It gave me the space to find my hands again. To whoever runs this program, thank you. You saved my life. I stared at the screen in the dark. The blue light lit up my dirty bedroom. My laundry was piled in the corner. My teeth hurt. My feet were calloused and blistered. I realized something ugly that night. I wasn't a hero. I was an addict. I was addicted to being his secret savior. Every time he posted about how grateful he was, how the system worked, I got a hit of relief. It proved I wasn't just the monster who put him in a wheelchair. I was the miracle that got him out of it. I was buying my own forgiveness for $1,200 a month, and I was terrified of what would happen if I ever had to stop. Last Tuesday morning, it all fell apart. It was 9:00 a.m. They called me into a small conference room on the 3rd floor of my office building. There was a woman from HR sitting there. I had never seen her before. She pushed a thick beige folder across the fake wood table. She talked about company restructuring and a severance package. The severance was 2 weeks' pay. I didn't say anything. I just stared at the ugly patterned carpet on the floor. I nodded. I went back to my desk. I put my stapler, a coffee mug, and a few framed photos into a medium-sized cardboard box. The tape on the bottom of the box was loose, so I had to hold it from underneath. I walked to the elevator. Nobody looked at me. I carried the box to my car. The black plastic handle of my car door was hot from the sun. I put the box on the passenger seat and sat behind the wheel. The smell of the hot dashboard hit me. Right then, I did the math in my head. My main income was gone. The shell company was completely dead. For the last 6 days, I have barely slept. I sit at my kitchen table with my laptop plugged into the wall. I applied for 5 different personal loans online. The screen just kept showing the same word, denied. My credit score is wrecked because I maxed out my credit cards buying groceries and gas over the last year. I went into the pharmacy and asked the manager, Dave, for more hours. He just chewed his gum, looked at his clipboard, and said, "Corporate cut our hours. I can't give you any more shifts." At 3:00 a.m. every night, I lie on my back in bed. The ceiling fan above me clicks on every single rotation. Click, click, click. My chest feels tight, like someone is sitting on it. I try to breathe in through my nose, but the air gets stuck in the back of my throat. I check my banking app again, hoping a deposit magically appeared. It never does. I am complete. Really out of options. That brings me back to right now, sitting in this grocery store parking lot. The sun is going down. The dashboard is casting a weird green light on my hands. My hands are shaking. If I just stop paying, the grant dries up in May. The lawyer stops sending the checks. Liam gets a 3-day eviction notice taped to his door. He loses his apartment. He loses his painting studio. He spirals back into the depression that almost killed him. But if I tell him the truth, if I call him and say, "There is no grant, it was me the whole time," it destroys the miracle. It takes away his belief that the world is good and that the system cares about him. It forces him to deal with the person who broke his spine all over again. He will know that I manipulated his entire life for 3 years just so I could sleep at night. I am a coward. I am sitting here, gripping the peeling leather of the steering wheel, and I don't know how to tell him his biggest blessing is just my pathetic penance. This story is a brutal look at what happens when guilt turns into financial self-sabotage. If you are ever tempted to use money to avoid a difficult emotional conversation, stop. It is never sustainable. Practically speaking, running a secret financial operation for someone else is incredibly dangerous. You put your own credit, your physical health, and your future at risk. When you exhaust yourself working 3 jobs to fund a lie, you lose the ability to actually help yourself or anyone else when an emergency, like a sudden job loss, happens. If you cause an accident or hurt someone, the legal and insurance systems exist for a reason. Let them work. Do not try to play God with your savings account to buy your own forgiveness. Furthermore, setting up shell companies or anonymous grants can have complicated tax and legal implications that will eventually catch up with you. If you are carrying heavy guilt, therapy is cheaper and more effective than paying someone else's rent for 3 years. Face the uncomfortable truth early. The longer you lie, the more collateral damage you create when the money finally runs out.